Welcome to another episode of Clinic Success Secrets, the podcast where we uncover the strategies and insights that drive clinic growth and elevate patient care. I'm your host, Tomas O'Dwyer, founder of Clinic Success Partners, a medical digital marketing agency dedicated to helping clinics serve more patients and achieve the success that they deserve. Join me as we dive into expert advice and success stories from clinic owners and healthcare leaders around the globe. Today, it is my absolute honor and pleasure to be speaking with Dr. Larry Stanleigh. Dr. Stanleigh has over 30 years of experience as a general practice dentist specializing in orofacial pain and TMJ dysfunction. He's also an internationally recognized business coach, keynote speaker, author, and chief technology officer of Agility Guard, a company providing cutting-edge sports performance mouthguards used by elite athletes. His business coaching philosophy, and I think this is going to be incredibly valuable for anyone listening, emphasizes building strong relationships and creating powerful, consistent systems to drive success. And I'm sure when you listen to Larry speak, his passion will shine through and expertise. So listen, with that being said, welcome to the show, Larry.
Well, thank you for the lovely introduction, and I'm happy to be here.
Getting right into it, Larry, would you mind telling us a bit about how you got into the space you're in, starting off as a dentist and now, as we've mentioned in previous conversations, becoming a bit of a thought leader in that whole relationship-focused business growth system that you have?
Sure. It's always interesting the journeys people take, and in mine, I was born and reared in Toronto, and it was joined the Canadian Forces to help pave my way through dental school. And when I was done, I came out to Calgary. That's where they sent me. And when I finished my contract, I decided to stay in Calgary, and I joined as an associate. I worked for another dentist in a dental clinic, and the dentist at the time was really into the whole idea of dentistry as a business, and he introduced me to a book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth, where Michael Gerber talks about carpenters or plumbers or dentists or
Bakers.
somebody who has a skill, and they working for people who just are not great people to work for, and said, you know what, I'm good at what I do, I can do it better. And they open up a business, but they forget the fact that they don't have experience in bookkeeping and accounting and in marketing and human resources hiring and training and leading teams and all the aspects of running a business that has nothing to do with their skill set and everything to do with everything else. The 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. I maintain that 20% of our success is due to our clinical knowledge and our skill sets. 80% is due to everything else. And so over time, I've learned that I needed to know that 80%. And that's what I coach and I teach and I do today. And in fact, and we'll get into it a little bit about the whole personality thing. My first business coach told me when he heard, I'd bought my own dental practice. After I left the practice that I was working for, I wanted to do my own thing and be my own independent person. In fact, all my members of my family are like that. We're very fiercely independent. And so I bought a practice from a guy who retired, and it was a very busy, thriving, successful practice. And I worked hard to maintain that. And the average dental practice, when you buy it, and other small businesses are the same, you lose about 60% of the clients in the first year. And I had a 95% retention rate after the first year, partly by design, partly by luck, but I just because I happened to be already in that relationship mode naturally. But my practice grew, and then it plateaued, and I was paying the bills, but I wasn't making great profits. So my first business coach said, well, you need to have the team communicate with each other better. And so he taught me the insights discovery personality system, similar to DISC, and we did better, and the practice grew, and then it plateaued, and then I rehired him, and we looked at we need to apply these personality-based systems, these relationship-based systems to all aspects of business, and that's when things soared. And so that's where I'm at now. I my lectures when I do them are titled "Have You Lost That Love and Feeling? Success is all about relationships." And so now success, I define it as being systems done consistently with the right mindset. And if you do those three things, you will be successful. But all starts with those systems.
I love that so much. And I want to bring back that key stat that you talked about. And frankly, I find it difficult to believe that it was looked at, that you had that 95% retention rate. Because what I always, what I say to my clients, or if I'm consulting, is, there's four levers that we can pull to grow a business. And that's traffic, conversion, price, and churn. At the end of the day, and this is from a marketing standpoint, you can bring in all the new business you want, but as you know, the best customer, client, patient, what have you, is one that you already have. So the power in keeping them ethically, depending on the type of clinic you have, obviously, it's different if it's a serious surgery. But the point being is, keeping them due to high quality relationships is so powerful, and that's why I'm really excited to dive into how you do that.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's go straight into the personality type side of things, because I know that's going to interest anyone listening. What you've mentioned before, that there's some improvements to be made to DISC personality types, but
Okay.
which for anyone listening is a commonly used method of characterizing broad, different types of personalities: extroversion, introversion, dominance, and so on. What role do personality type tests play in your customer experience?
Well, I'm going to go sideways for just a moment because I know I'm going
Far
to
ahead.
forget this.
Far
You,
ahead.
you talked about acquiring new clients and retaining existing clients. And I talk about clients because many of the people listening, they're going to be medical spas, they're going to be running different clinics, not just dentists. So it's not necessarily just patients, but rather clients. There's the cost of acquisition of a new client, and then there's the cost of retaining an existing client. And the cost of retention is way lower than the cost of acquiring. And so we need to emphasize that. In fact, a great story is about the Bare Naked Ladies, is a band out of Toronto who were very successful in the 90s and stuff, and they kind of plateaued. And their manager had them go on, they released a new album, had them go on this North American tour. They went to, I don't know how many cities, 50 cities and stuff like that. In some cities, they did great. In other cities, they just completely flopped. There was no audience. And he realized that if we go where the fans are, we'll do better. So you market to your existing fan base, and that's where they grew. So the next year, they just kept going back repeatedly to the places where they had a larger fan base, and their success soared. And so that's what we need to think about as well. Who are our fans? Don't go after the people who aren't our fans. Support the fans and find out who are they connected to, and that's where you're going to grow. But when we did back to the personality thing, Hippocrates is the sort of the father of modern medicine, and studied the human body well, wrote a treatise, some of which survives to today. But he also looked at the human psyche and based on that, divided humans into four personality types, the names of which escape me right now. But the basic idea of humans kind having four basic personality types is sort of how psychology was for 2,400 years. And then in 1921, Carl Jung wrote a book about the human personalities. And 7 years later, William Marsden, I should say, wrote a book complementing that. Jung divided the human personality into 8 types, and Marsden distilled it back down into 4, but did it in a wheel. And that's how personality testing has been ever since then. The 8 types resulted in the Myers-Briggs stuff, which is very famous, very well known, really accurate, works really well, but really complicated, and it's hard to understand. So that's not easy for the regular person like you and I to implement. And then they developed the disk system and other complementary systems, and that's what I want to explain. So I'm going to share the screen here. I'm going to use my glasses here because I needed to read. And what I'm going to do is show you this. So in this, the Discovery Insights personality system, it's similar to DISC, but more intuitive. The problem with DISC, it works. It works beautifully well. It's accurate. It's profound. It's powerful. I've taken DISC training 3 times, and I still can't remember what D, I, S, and C stand for. And so I have to keep going back to it, and therefore I'm not using it. I wasn't using it. Whereas this is something I remembered and I was able to use. So if you take a grid and you go vertically, at the top is task-oriented people, and at the bottom is people-oriented people, and then you go a horizontal line across, and you get introverts on the left side and extroverts on the right side. You can create 4 quadrants. But now instead of labeling them DISC, we're going to color them red, yellow, blue, and green. And so in the upper right corner, the reds are the extroverted, people-oriented, task-oriented extroverts. These are the leaders. These are the drivers. These are the CEOs. These are the captains of the sports teams. These are the politicians. These are the people where when the going gets tough, the tough get going. They want to change the world. On the bottom right are the yellows. These are the people-oriented extroverts. These are the lives of the party. These are the people who do not stop talking. These are the people who will interrupt you while you're talking because they've got so much to say. These are the people who, when the going gets tough, the tough goes shopping. These are the people who want to party with the world. On the bottom left are the greens. These are the people-oriented introverts. They're less about themselves and more about the world around them. These are the people who are the healthcare workers. These are the people who are the volunteers at the food bank or at the pet shelter. These are the people who want to change, who want to repair the world. And then on the upper left are the blues. These are the task-oriented introverts. The blues want to organize the world. These are the people who are happiest interacting with machines instead of people. COVID didn't matter to them because they're already doing their own thing away from people. They're the accountants, they're the engineers, they're the researchers, they're the people who are on their own. They want to organize the world. And my first coach described it this way. Imagine you get in an elevator. You go in the elevator, the doors open, and a red person walks in, and they get in and they acknowledge you, and they press the button where they want to go, and they press it 2 or 3 more times because they're going to go where they're going to go. And then the door closes, the door opens, and in walks someone who's yellow, and the yellow will walk in and they'll start talking to everybody and forget that they even need to press the button where they're going. The greens will walk in and they'll look around at everybody and they'll make sure that not only is their floor pushed, but all the floors for everybody else is properly pushed as well. And then the doors will close, the doors will open, a blue will walk in, they'll look at all the number of people in there, they'll look at the plaque that says, what's the capacity of the elevator, and decide if it's even safe for them to be in the elevator. I've never forgotten that story. And I've always remembered the personalities based on that story. Now, the Discovery Insights people, it's actually based out of Scotland, not far from where you live, Thomas. And I just find it intuitive. It's a little bit more expensive than Disk, unfortunately, but it's a powerful system and I find it easy to use. And therefore, it's the system I tend to talk about, tend to use in my coaching. And it's what I've used all these years. And from there, you can apply it in your systems. If you understand the personality, and they're not really colors, but they're rather color energies. The energies, we all have all of these colors within us, but we tend to lead with a certain kind of energy. And depending on the situation, we can switch. So when we have clients come to us, we get to know them and we get to understand what their color energy is, and then we'll focus. So the Reds want to be in and out on time. They're going to make decisions quickly about what they want. So you better be prepared to deliver what you offer. You can't say, oh, they can't come up and say, oh, I want X. And you say, well, we don't have the products. We'll get it in next week. You got to be prepared for the Reds or they're going to go somewhere else. The yellows are going to come in and talk to everybody, and no one's going to get anything done until you redirect them. But they're all about how they look, how they feel. So if you focus on that, about using language that talks about how they're going to look and how they're going to feel, they're going to resonate with that. They're going to buy in. They're going to be happy. The greens aren't about themselves. They're about everybody else. So they're going to want to know about the environmental impact of the products you're using. They're going to want to know about how it's going to help their health be better. Greens are about wanting to repair the world. So if they feel comfortable with the products being good for the planet or good for their health or something along that lines, if you can emphasize that kind of discussion, they're going to love you. And then the blues, they're going to want to know about what's the products made out of, what's the science behind it, and often they won't necessarily decide right then and there. They're going to want to go home and research the heck out of what it is that you're offering, and then if you know what you're talking about, they're going to come back and they're going to buy. They're going to accept. They're going to do. So you really got to be on your game with the blues, or they're going to walk and they'll go somewhere else. So that's the basis of the color personality systems with clients. You don't have to test everybody. You just need to understand the basics and then guide your conversations. But successful businesses have team members who work with them so that you can scale the business and go up. And in that case, then I test every member of the team so that they understand what their color energy is. Because if you're a yellow personality, you can't be that way with blues. You need to adapt and you need to understand yourself and the tools you need to do so that you can interact with the blues or the greens or the reds in a way that's going to resonate with them. So the better you understand yourself, the better you're going to be able to interact with the world around you. So that's where that comes in. And having the team lead understand the personalities of the people underneath them, you'll know how you can lead them better, what's going to be their motivators, what's going to be the things that are going to resonate with them, so that you can have a team that's happy, because not everybody wants to be driven. Some people need to be cared for. Some people need to be pampered. Some people just need to be organized. And by understanding the team underneath you better, you're going to lead them better and you're going to have a long, loyal, happy team. Because the average per time you got to replace a team member, 30% of their salary is going to be spent on just trying to bring the next person up to speed. It's very costly to replace team members on a regular basis. And then marketing. You can't do one marketing fits all. And this is where, Thomas, your company shines, because you customize what you do for your clients. You get to know them, you get to know their businesses, and you customize for it. And you're already linked into Disc. And like I said, Disc is powerful. So what you do is you take your marketing and you don't market one thing to everybody. you'll market to the reds, and you'll come up with something different that'll market to the yellows, and you'll come up with something different that'll market to the greens, and something different that'll market to the blues. So if you do different marketing to different groups of people, you will resonate with them, and you'll reach different groups of people at different times. So you need to mix up your marketing. But Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, this is all free. So you don't need to spend a hockey sock of money. You just need to hire the right team that can put this together and implement it on a schedule, and away you go. You don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know some dentists who spend $10,000 a month on marketing, and I do better than they do, and I don't spend that much money. I spend in the neighborhood of hundreds per month, and that's it. And I'm booking. It's September right now. I'm booking patients into February next year. That's how busy I am. The practice that I work in, we grew from $600,000 to over $3 million in 6 years. So these systems work if you do them consistently and you apply them diligently with the right mindset. It works.
I love this, and I can't help. I'd love for us to keep this open right now, if that's okay. I want to just
Oh,
bring the graphic up again because I've a few thoughts and questions, suggestions, and so on this because
yes.
as you're saying it, I can't help, as I'm sure anybody listening to this will be saying something similar. I can't help but silently audit everyone, everyone around me. And what's fascinating to me here is there are definitely certain archetypes that jump to mind for me. I mean, number one, the blue. My background was biomedical engineering, and that speaks to about 95% of the people that I know. You know, they're just numbers driven. You know, again, that's literally my biomedical engineering was what my undergraduate degree was in. And I'd say one of the few people that didn't fall under that criteria. Yellow, that to me screams receptionist or uh, you know, front of house, front end, whatever we want to call it, client facing uh role. Green, as you said, you've got the nurses, the doctors, the people that just want to give back, and they're really living a life of uh of servitude, and that's out of love. I mean, highly empathetic individuals. um I've nerded out a lot about Carl Jung's work myself, so there's a whole spectrum of neuroticism versus, you know, the other side here. And then red obviously would be the archetype of the entrepreneur, the driven, um you know, multiple cups of coffee a day, smash the day kind of person. While this is open, Larry, I'd love to, again, we speak about the Pareto principle, you know, the 80-20 principle and all that. What is the 80-20? You know, for anyone listening, the Pareto principle is that 80% of results come from 20% of the inputs. What is the 20% that is most important for people to really try and get in their head when it comes to how these different color personality types should interact with each other? You know, if I'm a red, what are the key things for me to remember when interacting with a blue, green, or yellow, or so on?
Well, it's tough to talk generalities because when I
Yeah.
get into those kinds of questions, it's easier in specific situations. And I'll give you
Okay.
some examples. In my office, I have three people in admin currently, and their personalities are one's blue, one's green, one's yellow. And the yellow personality, she's lovely on the phone. She's very friendly. She talks a lot. She's welcoming. For the kind of personality of patients who arrive, they really like her. They talk about how friendly she is and stuff like that. But sometimes she just doesn't. We don't get any work done because she's so busy talking. But because we understand that that's her personality type, we know how we can redirect her and get her back on task to get her away from talking. And it's something we need to revisit almost every single week with her. But she's
Mhm.
so good with regards to her personality and how she is with our patients that we aren't seeking to replace her. We just need to learn how to redirect that personality. So yellows depending on where they are in the yellow, she's really yellow. Like she's just way out there yellow. My lead ed man is very blue. She's kind of quiet and stuff like that, but she's really organized. And my how I do what I do because I've got this specialty in oral facial pain and jaw consulting, sleep disordered breathing, and sports performance mouth guards. There's real order that we need to do things, and so she understands the information we need to gather so that we can make sure that this all goes very smoothly and efficiently because people are waiting a long time to see me and we don't want more delays because we've screwed up on the procedural side. So having her be very blue is very important. And so I'm thrilled. We work together really well. We've worked together for about 15 years. My team lead's very green. She just wants to, she cares about everybody and she's got everything organized. She's got blue tendencies, she's got yellow tendencies. She's really green. And so but she's just a great team lead. Everyone likes her because she cares about everybody in the office. And so by understanding the personalities, we understand how we can direct them so that they are best at their job. So that's I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I suppose again, I want to make this as actionable as possible for anybody listening. You say so when it comes to customer, client, patient, whatever, what have you. Generally, I suppose, as I understand it, you want to make sure everyone on your team has a baseline level of understanding of these different personality types, and then
Right.
they can kind of mentally categorize because obviously it's quite time intensive. And
Yeah.
as I understand it, I say it on nearly every podcast, which is why I'm so excited about this one. Everything in life boils down to the quality of your relationships, and the rules for any type
Yes.
of relationship are fairly universal.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
romantic, platonic, business, familial, what have you. Uh,
Absolutely.
when it comes to the team itself, now you did mention this personality type testing is a bit more expensive than DISC. Is that is there a specific resource where people can go to get their team tested for these personality types?
Yes, there's two ways. You could go to insights.com and from there we'll direct you to Discovery Insights practitioner, or you can reach out to me, dr Larry speaks.ca. Dr. Larry speaks.ca is my website. And from there, you've got all my contact information. You can email me, drlarry at drlarry.net. Dr. Larry at drlarry.net. You can email me and I can either help you directly or I can direct you to someone local who can help you directly with regards to that. If you want to have yourself tested and or your team. But when it comes to our clients, we can't afford to test them
No.
every time. And to give you an idea, the basic testing in Insights Discovery ranges from $150 per person to about $500 per person, depending on the depth of information you're trying to get. I go for the lower end because I don't need that much depth of information for us to understand the basics about ourselves, what drives us, what motivates us, that kind of stuff. But it's $150 a person. You got 6 employees, it's 900 bucks. Plus the half day of training that it does to get with someone to teach you what does this all mean and how do we apply it specifically in our own business. But our clients or our patients, we don't know. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, but I can come back to
Yeah.
this easily.
Yeah.
Our clients, if we have clients or patients that we've seen before, then we've gotten to know them a little bit. Somebody in the office knows that person. And so we will have a team meeting at the beginning of the day and set up our day. Who's coming that day, and how do we prepare for them? And so we'll know who the reds are, and so you get them in and out on time. We they're going to accept our treatment plans. They're going to say yes quickly, but we better be able to schedule them quickly because they're not going to wait. The yellows are going to you want to get them in and out on time as well, because if you don't, not because they got places to go, things to do, people to see, because they're going to
They'll be
stand at the front
chatting.
desk and they're going to talk to everybody, and no one's going to get anything done until you get them into a treatment room or something like that. So get them away from interacting with the staff and give them an iPad, give them something, social media, something to interact with so that they're happy while they wait for you to do whatever you need to do. They're going to accept things quickly, and if you're there doing treatment that day, great. But if you've got to reschedule them, sometimes they'll change their mind. They'll think, "Oh, I'm going to do the top tier whatever," and then they come back, "Oh, I kind of changed your mind." But if you redirect the conversation back to how it was before, this is where you need to write everything down. Record what you talked about, what they said, how they responded, so that you can review it. When they come back, you can say, "Well, when you were here last week, you said this and we made you feel this way." And oh yeah, yeah. And then they'll accept again, because that's how they are. The Greens don't want to know about themselves. They're happy to wait for you. They're the kind of people who will bring their own book to while they're waiting, and they're reading their own material. They walk around. They got their own reading material with them. They're happy to wait for a limit. You're helping other people. It's fine. It's okay. You yeah. And so that's how they are. They are very quick to trust, but very slow to accepting information about themselves, because they're about the world around them.
Mm.
But eventually they will come around as they trust you, and they will do what you ask them to do, but it's going to take time. And the blues are the same way. They want to know about the science. They're happy to wait. So I make sure I've got things like popular mechanics or popular science, stuff that really resonates with the engineers of the world, the scientists, and stuff. And they love reading that kind of stuff. They're happy to wait to a certain point. And again, they're also not going to necessarily make up their minds right away. They want to think about it, and they want to know, but it's about the details, the materials, the science behind it, the ingredients, how's it going to affect them long term, that kind of stuff. And so that's how we do that. But then we've got situations where the clients are new to us. You could be a spa in a tourist area, and every client's new to you, because you don't get this repeat business based on the location. Or we have new patients in our practice. We'll see maybe 3,000 people in a month, but only 60 are new to our practice. And so those 60, I teach the golden 10. If you get to know 8 to 10 things about the person sitting in front of you, that changes the relationship from a professional one to a personal one. And then that changes everything. But what's the 10 things that you need to know? So things like know their name. The sweetest sound a person can hear is the sound of their own name. Dale Carnegie
Yeah.
teaches that.
Yeah. How
And,
to win
and
friends.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so know their name. A general rule of thumb, although it's changing in today's society, is if they're older than you, call them Mr. or Mrs. whatever. If they're younger than you, you can use their first name. Unless it depends on the area. Calgary, Alberta's very informal.
Mm.
The cowboy culture and stuff like that. So first name basis is really common here, and that's okay. But I'm also now of an age where almost everybody that I deal with is younger than me, so it's first name anyways, and away we go. But you should know what do they do. So make sure in your questionnaire talk about their career, because knowing what they are they an accountant, are they an engineer, are they an entertainer, what their career is, will help guide you on what you think their personality and color energy might be. And if they don't have a job, if they're a stay-at-home person, what kind of hobbies do they have? Do they like to read? Do they play sports? Understanding what it is they do for their free time will help guide you as to what their personality type is like. Who referred them? Knowing and creating that connection. How did they come to you? Was it doctor? Was it Google? Was it the neighbor? Was it another business you deal with? Knowing that will also help guide the personality type. And then looking beyond that, and this is where my wife's strength is. Do they have a family? Do they have children? And engaging and talk about them will help guide you on how they are in their personalities. If they're talking from an emotional standpoint about how their families make them feel versus the ages of their children and what they're doing, it will also guide you on their personality. So it's all these different nebulous things, and when I teach that, it's a little more ordered what the 8 to 10 things are. But you do all these things and you'll transform that relationship, and the experience that person will have will be phenomenal, because people generally in business don't take the time to get to know their clients. And when you do, then you're already elevating yourself above the rest. It's unfortunate that in business, the bar is set very low.
Yeah.
And how we deal with customers is the bar is set very low. So it doesn't take a lot to do these kinds of things. It costs very little money because it's only a little bit of time, and will transform your business over time. It doesn't happen overnight, but you do it consistently, and you will get there. Roger Levin of the Levin Group has dealt with over 40,000 small businesses worldwide over the last 30 years. And the top 10% of his clients take an average of 7 years to get to that top 10%. But when they take their time to get there, they stay there then for the rest of their careers. And imagine your business rising to the top 10% amongst all the businesses in your category and staying there for the rest of your career. How are you going to do financially, personally, professionally? This is the kind of stuff that makes a difference.
I love this. There's so many, I suppose, ways to go off that. But one thing I'll mention before I forget, we mentioned this on a previous call. For anyone that wants to learn any more about this, there is a book that dives deep into this called "Surrounded by Idiots" by Thomas Erickson. It's not to say people are idiots, but the idea being is very often people would ask, why is such a person acting, so introverted or so outgoing, or they're being selfish. It's a good little manual on if somebody wants to nerd out about that. It talks about the colors. But bringing back to your philosophy, we've talked about this before, and I want to get more into more details about team dynamics with with this methodology in mind and so on. But it would be remiss of me not to mention the diamond rule. You talk about that.
Yes.
Can you
Yeah,
tell us a bit
yeah.
more about the diamond rule?
So, the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have done unto yourselves. And it's a good basic rule. It's the foundation of our religions and of our faiths. We want to do good to others as we would want to have good done to ourselves. The problem is, what if our team or our clients don't want what we want for them? So I much prefer the diamond rule. And in the diamond rule, we find out what it is that our client or our team members want, and then find a way to give them what they uniquely desire. So it's finding out what people want and then customizing it. So it's not what we want for them, it's what do they want, and then find a way to give them what they want. And it's a different approach, but it changes everything. And so it's the diamond rule and not the golden rule that will transform our businesses, because building relationships take away the need for sales.
Interesting. I'd love again, I'm going to play devil's advocate in this way. So what if, I suppose, could you give me some concrete within the scope, or within the area of clinics specifically, of how that actually looks? Because obviously education and so on is so important. I'm thinking, for example, in the case of a medical spa, where they may not know exactly, um, the specific treatments that are required. Is this sort of a case of, I suppose, selling the vacation, not the plane ticket, where, you're trying to give people the result that they want, and then you are leveraging your own expertise to explain to them how that is done? Or how does the diamond rule look in actual action in clinics?
So, um, one of the things that I do, I also teach, is the 10 plus 1 moments of magic. And these are moments in time that transforms a person's experience with them. And one of them is the simple question, what brings you here today? What is it that you expect from us today? And by understanding the motivation of the person behind that and understanding their personality type, because you've gotten to know them a little bit. So it's not the first question you ask. You get to know them, who they are, a little bit what they do, that kind of stuff. And then what brings you here today? What can we do for you today? And and most of the time, more often than not, you'll be surprised, they'll have something very specific in mind. They'll say, something hurts, or I've been feeling really down lately because of X, Y, or Z is going on, or I've come here from XYZ and I just need to decompress. Something will guide you, the clinician, as to how you can then direct them towards what you can offer them to meet what their goal for that moment in time is. So you're
Mm.
finding out what it is that they want, or finding out what is troubling them or whatever, so that you can then address their needs. Does that
Mm.
make sense?
It does. So I think that's sort of what I was alluding to, the vacation as opposed to the plane ticket. Ultimately, you're trying to find out, again, the logic here being is, people buy based on emotion, people, as with anything, but this is sales 101. Find out what the person actually wants and then explain how you're a good fit for that. So I suppose my initial question was, give them what they want, but you explain them how that is done. So I think what I'm really hearing is, doing due diligence and making sure that you're not just throwing them. We talked about this. This is why Clinic Success Partners, shameless plug. This is why we make sure that any strategies that we're providing are aligned with, you don't, might not want to be too salesy, so that they'll take a different approach. Another person might want to go very aggressive. Then we'll tailor the approach. So this makes a lot more sense. That's great. I suppose another topic I want to definitely ask you about, Larry, we talked about this as well. Mentors, the importance of them, and I suppose the importance of not having a scarcity mindset, I think, or
Yeah.
the willingness to share information. What impact have mentors played in your life, and what are some recommendations that you would have for somebody that wants to find one of their own?
Well, that's it's amazingly it's surprisingly easy. Uh, just about everything we do, somebody's already done it. And if you want to be successful in a certain field, doesn't matter what the field is, there's already somebody wildly successful in that field. And I've learned that if you approach someone who's very successful and ask them to help teach you what you need to know to be successful yourself, more often than not, they'll say yes. Find out the people who are successful in your field, approach them, and they will help you. And if they won't help you, they'll often steer you to the person who helped them, who will then be able to help you. Successful people are not threatened by what you do and how you do it, because you won't impact their success by being successful yourself. You will only help build their success by validating what they're already doing. So find out who's successful in your field and find a way to connect with them, and they will help you. I found LinkedIn a surprisingly powerful tool for random, but I've generally just gone around and looked at who's successful in my fields and then gone to them. And now that's happening today. I had just this morning a dentist in Utah. I'm in Canada, reached out to me, and I'm going to be mentoring him about some stuff with regards to the sports performance mouthguards, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's great, it's fun, but it's not rocket science.
Lovely. And before I forget, Larry, how are you set time-wise? Just want to make
Oh,
sure.
I'm free all day. Although
Okay,
we're not going to
yeah.
go all day.
We
I have
won't, we
no
won't.
set time. I have nowhere I need to be.
Okay, perfect. I definitely wanted to, as I said, out my own personal nerdiness, I do want to dive into the work that you're doing with the mouth guards. But to round up I suppose the topic of personality types and leadership and so on, I'd love to hear a bit more about the impact that this paradigm, this relationship centric paradigm, has had on how you run your business. Do you have any examples of how personalized leadership has improved both team dynamics and patient care in your practice, specifically through the lens of personalized or personality based management?
Sure. I'll share three stories with you. Um, One is it transformed the team because, in addition to understanding our personalities, I took a page out of Tony Robbins' book and we created agreements with the team. And sometimes personalities of team members clash, and Mary will have a problem with Ellen. And then Ellen will tell Louise that Mary's having a problem with Ellen. Well, so we've got this rotating group of people with each other, and they're not getting along, and that's going to affect the mood of the clinic, and it's going to the mood of the business, and it's going to affect how the clients perceive everything. So we have agreements that if Mary has a problem with Ellen, she can't tell Louise. If Louise hears Mary tell her a problem about Ellen, Louise has to have the agreement to say, Mary, you got to talk to Ellen. So it opens up dialogue, because the majority of the problems we have today all happen because we're not communicating. We're not talking to each other. And often, if we just open up that door and create that dialogue, all these issues go away. So the agreements not of person A can't complain about person B to person C. That's agreement number one. And the agreement number two is if person C hears that person A complains about person B, person C has to direct them back to talk to person B. And if we create that, then these gossip type conversations don't happen and harmony is maintained. So that's been a critical thing. I've had two women who have been working with me for over 30 years because of these agreements. I've had other employees with me for 10, 15, 20 years because of these agreements. We get along. And it's by design, not by accident. And you can have these kinds of businesses too. Client stories. I'm now working in, I no longer have a solo practice. I work in a group practice with two other dentists. There's four hygienists, three dentists, four assistants, four admin people. It's a big, busy place. And so not every patient, I don't see every patient, nor does every patient see me. And one of my colleagues was off on holidays, and a person was in getting their teeth cleaned, and the hygienist needed me to come in and do the checkup. I've never met this person before. He's been part of the practice for 3 or 4 years. It's COVID time. And I went to the chart and I looked up we've got everything digitized. I looked it up and I learned about who he is and what he does and stuff like that, what treatment's been recommended in the past. And so I walked in and it's COVID time and I said, "You're a professor at the local university. How has COVID affected your work?" So we started right away with a conversation about them personally. It has nothing to do with the business
Mm.
at hand, but dentistry, but more about getting to know them as people. And then we talked about that, and then we got into doing the checkup, and then reinforced the recommendations that had been done in the past, and encouraging them to consider X, Y, or Z. And he left, and he went to the front desk, and he said to the team at the front desk, he said, "Is everybody in this office care that much about me?" Because
Oh,
he's never been anywhere where people paid attention to who they are as people. And it took 2 minutes for me to review it and to talk to him, and away we go. It took no time at all, and that was powerful. Another story, a 12-year-old boy came to me with his mom. um, I'm now, they've come to me for a third opinion. This young boy his preteen, has been to two other dental offices. He's in a lot of pain and no treatment's been done yet. And I don't know anything. I'm sitting down in front of the boy for the first time. Mom is sitting right next to him. And I sit down and I look at him. His name's Arthur. I said, "Arthur, tell me what's going on." Well, his face lit up and he started to talk. He told me about all the things he's going on, his headache issues, and he's having trouble breathing, and he doesn't sleep well, and this and that. And I look in his mouth is healthy. He's got clean teeth. He doesn't have a cavity in his mouth and stuff like that. But he's got what we call a severe malocclusion, where his lower jaw is really small and it fits deep up inside to into his upper jaw. And when he brings his teeth together, it hurts. He's got an orthodontic problem, and he's got ear, nose, and throat problem because he can't breathe through his nose and stuff like. So I look at it, and then I sit him up, and I talk to Arthur, and I tell Arthur, I said, "This is what's going on. We need to work with a couple of specialists, and I have friends of mine who are really good in this field. I would like to send you to them. I will coordinate everything. We'll make sure you're looked after. Do you understand?" And then he says yes, and he's happy, and he's agreeing to what I'm recommending. And then I said, "Arthur, now I'm going to talk to your mom while mom's right there." And so I turn and I look at
love
mom,
that.
and I say to mom, I said, "Do you understand what we've said?" And she said, "You're the first doctor who's talked to my son like he's a real person. People just want to matter. Even when they're 12, even when they're 8, kids
Especially
have
with their
things they want to say. Listen, they may be out in left field, but they just want to be heard." And that's all this guy wanted to do. The other two dentists who saw him before talked to the mom and didn't talk to Arthur. And that's all it took. It's all it took was that relationship, and it changed everything. Now there are patients in my practice, and the whole family's and she works in a real estate office, and all of the realtors in her office are now patients of mine. It's one relationship became 30, and it
Wow.
transforms the business. Yeah,
I
it's
love that.
powerful stuff.
I can just
Yeah,
imagine what a pleasant experience. I can imagine them coming home to, oh my God, what a nice doctor. Yeah, you
yeah,
know, I can imagine him just being, oh, mom, mom, mom. Dr. Larry was so nice, etc. So it's hearing that,
yeah,
if anyone listening, if that doesn't sound like something that you want,
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
the mom told me later that Art, when they're in the elevator going down from my office, he looked at his mom and he says, "Mom, can he be my dentist?"
Yeah,
They
there
just
you
came to
go.
me for an opinion, but now I care for them. And it's years later. He's a young adult man now, so
Yeah,
yeah, it's still my
there you
patient.
go. Yeah, as I said, I
All his
mean,
problems have been corrected. He's breathing fine. He's not in pain, and he's still got
yeah,
really healthy teeth. Yeah,
amazing. And obviously, bringing back to the business side of things that we talked about again, traffic conversion, price and churn. That addresses that, as you said, 60% drop off rate, retention rate that people had. If they're having that kind of experience, you're going to have a very cost effective practice.
yeah.
As I said, there's one thing that we definitely want to talk about before we hop off is the work that you do with mouthguards, the pioneering work that you've been
Yeah.
doing with Agility Guard. Could you tell me a bit about that and
Sure. This
what
this is
innovations
this
you've
is
been doing?
cool stuff in a whole different direction. In 1980, a dentist in Boston came up with the idea that if we decompress the joint where the lower jaw meets the skull, and the joint is called the temporomandibular joint or TMJ. So when someone says, "Oh, you've got TMJ," the answer is yes, I have two of them, one on each side. It's just the name of the joint. But he said
Yeah.
if we decompress the joint and optimize the position of the lower jaw, would sports performance improve? And he ended up fitting the U.S. bobsled team at Lake Placid in 1980 with these mouth guards and this optimized position, and they ended up winning gold. And he said, "I think I'm on to something." And then he started fitting professional athletes, football players, and others with these mouth guards, and their performance improved. And the problem is, pardon me, he was the only guy who could make these mouth guards because he couldn't seem to come up with a way to measure things or to teach other people to do it with consistency. There was too much guesswork. And then along comes a company out of Seattle called Myotronics, where they make diagnostic machines that will use ultra low frequency tens to relax the muscles here and here, and a magnet, and we can track in 3 dimensions where the lower jaw will go, where the joints decompress and the muscles are neutral. And if we capture this neutral physiologic position, that's measured. So any dentist who learns this procedure, it will be consistent because it's the same across the board. If you get that measured position and build a mouth guard to that position, the question is, would their sports performance improved? And the science has shown us the answer is yes. Now, a Canadian company out of Truro, Nova Scotia, came up with one company. Unfortunately, that company folded for reasons that are uncomfortable to discuss. So I'm not involved with that. But then another company out of Toronto called Agility Guard was formed, and this is the sports performance mouth guard company. So now we make mouth sports mouth guards. Sports mouth guards are designed to do custom ones, not the boil and bite stuff you get in the stores. The custom ones are made in these laminated layers, I should say, at 90-degree angles. So a blow to the face will distribute the force over a larger period. It will prevent your teeth from getting broken, will prevent the jaw bones from getting broken. But if we make it to an optimized position, it uprights the skeleton. It improves the airway. It improves your rotational balance, your flexibility, your range of motion, your upper body strength. So your sports performance improves. And then the more recent information, the research is showing that if we consistently decompress the joint, below here will prevent the impact to the skull and will reduce the incidence and severity of concussion. So we can't say it'll prevent concussions, but it will reduce the chance you get a concussion and reduce the severity of the concussion if you get one. And it also reduces the bouncing. So we see people in ice sports like luge and skeleton and bobsled where the ice is like this, and they have the ones who've
Mm,
been doing it for years. chronic traumatic encephalitis, CTE, and the brain isn't working right because of that constant bouncing, where the agility guard helps prevent that. I've been doing this for about 15 years now. Athletes that I have fitted have won 11 Olympic medals, including gold and silver, including gold in summer and winter Olympics. It's technology that works, but there's very few dentists in the world doing it right now. It's a small company. It's kind of quiet right now because there's been some leadership issues. The owner of the company died some years ago of brain tumor, and things are in disarray. But I'm the chief technology officer. I'm still fitting athletes with it, and I'm talking to a dentist in Utah this afternoon about it as well. So it's cool stuff. It's cool technology, and it makes a difference in athletes' lives.
I love that. I think I mentioned this before. I used to do a lot of boxing and mixed martial arts when I was, well, still do a bit. And I remember the first time, I can't speak for the agility guard, but I remember the first time, but I used an actual proper custom guard, being able to have full blown conversations. It wasn't bulky, but it was the first time I felt secure.
Yes,
Um, couldn't get over it. And
it's remarkable.
I used to train with a lot of people that were missing teeth, so uh, I can attest to the fact those boiling in hot water ones don't work
Yeah.
nearly as well. Yeah,
They're better than nothing, but they're too thick and they impair your breathing, and oftentimes they'll move your jaw joint to a position that may actually increase your chance of having jaw injuries or concussions. It's a problem, but
yeah,
uh, but it's better than nothing.
yeah. Um, I'm just thinking I'm using one of those ones, but right now I need to get a new custom one. But
You need to get a new custom one, and custom ones
yeah.
well built should last 2 to 4 years.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
unless you're a growing, like if you're a kid or something and you're growing and it changes. But adults, they should last 2 to 4 years. So they're worth spending a little extra money on because they should last.
yeah.
Kept clean, they'll last for years.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely my experience. But I suppose we I'll have a cut off point on my end in a few minutes. But I suppose to round things up, this is first of all, I'm going to be nerding out about the agility guard, and you've inspired me to pick up a fresh copy of that Surrounded by Idiots book, and definitely any work that you have, I'd love to be able to see more of it. Uh, to round it back up for any clinic owners listening to this that have, I've no doubt their minds are probably going, 100 miles a minute at the minute, trying to think of how to implement these personality based systems. Uh, what is, I suppose, one bit of leadership advice that you would have for clinic owners that you've learned over the years in terms of managing different personalities that you believe every clinic owner should know? What's one leadership lesson?
One leadership lesson.
It can be, if it's two or three, it's not gonna be the
Oh
end of the
yeah,
world.
no. I've got the one in mind because it's always for me top of mind. I am a member of an organization called the Crown Council, which is a group of dentists who got together 30 years ago to make their businesses better, and had this coursework that was put together in a program called Dental Boot Camp, and decided, we want to keep this going. And so they created this organization, and their annual convention at the end of January, early February every year is the world's best non-clinical conference there is. It's a phenomenal event, and it's all not about clinical dentistry, but about the 80% of everything else that makes our practices successful. And one of the things that they do is they teach the concept of I am a 10. And so Steve Anderson, the CEO of Crown Council, would get up and he'd start off the conference with saying, everyone stand up and say, I am a 10. I really am a 10. I walk like a 10 and I talk like a 10 because I am a 10 and it sure feels good. And the whole concept of being a 10, like if you wake up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror, what number do you write on your forehead? And most people will say anywhere from 1 to 7 or 8. Most people will say 7 or 8. But if you're not a 10, why aren't you a 10? Because you're the person who assigns that number. No one else says that you're a 7. You're the one saying that I'm not the best I can be. And it made sense if you if and he does that saying, and it's all rah rah, and I'm not a rah rah kind of guy. And so they would do that, and I'd go, yeah, right. And I'd go back home. And over time, I realized that I'd show up to work, and there are some days when I'm a 7, and I'd be putting out 7 stuff, and I'd be getting 7 stuff back. And there were other days where I'm a 4, and I'm putting out 4 stuff, and I'm getting 4 stuff back. That however I am towards the world around me, that's what I'm getting back. That's when I realized I am in control of this situation. I can choose to be what I'm going to be. And that's when that I am a 10 thing finally resonated. That's when it made sense to me. And now I wake up in the morning and the number I put on my forehead is a 10. And it's not backwards, because backwards is a 0, 1. So I'm a 10, and I really am a 10. And that's what I need to bring each and every day to my world around me, to my family, to my friends, to my workplace. If you can do that consistently, change is easy, consistency is hard. If you can do that consistently, you can be the best example of yourself, the rest is easy. The rest is easy. It'll all fall in place. You create the systems, you do it consistently with the right attitude, the right mindset. You are being the best example of yourself. That's my advice.
I actually love that so much because I mean, for the longest time, I was always, you just got to work harder, and I do work a lot. But the thing was, there's a bit of advice that has been given out recently that uh, success doesn't come from shouting affirmations in the mirror. It comes from a stack of undeniable evidence. But I don't necessarily believe it's that binary, because
Right.
at the end of the day, if you don't believe that you can succeed, you're going to need a lot more repetitions to get something right. And whether you can or you can't, you're probably right, Henry Ford. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, I think I was reading a great book, Psycho-Cybernetics. And the idea being is ultimately our subconscious will define an identity, and it will find ways to confirm that identity as time goes on. You see the kids, that label themselves bad at mathematics at 7 years old, and then God forbid they'll self-sabotage it if they ever level above that, because that's not their identity. And for the longest time, I was like, you need to work harder, which you do, but work with the intention and belief that it will work out.
Yes.
And that's how you start
And
stacking up the
I
evidence.
think the people listening may have missed something that's very important that you said, because you said it very quickly. And the statement is, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you're right.
100%.
Powerful.
So choose to be successful and get the work done. And care about people, listen, and remember their names.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
with that said, I think we'll have to round it up. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I really want to do this again because I've really, really enjoyed this, and I've no doubt I'll come back with a lot of questions.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No worries. It's been a
Uh,
pleasure. Where can people find you?
as stated before, but I'll repeat again. Uh, drlarryspeaks.ca or drlarryspeaks.com. DRLARRY at drlarry.net is my email. Reach out to me email. Email's better than using my cell phone. I get so much spam on my phone. I'm not even answering it now. I wait for people to leave messages. And so email's best, and then we can set up conversations. How can I help you individually? And then for those listening, reach out to Thomas. Customized marketing based on what you do. That's the key. And that's what Thomas and his team does as well. So
I
thank you.
appreciate that. All right.